Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics, and in this video we are going to be sharing with you the top 10 best beginner fish on the face of the earth. Now please keep in mind, these are fish that we've had in the fish room off and on, in some cases hundreds if not thousands of them throughout the time that we've had our fish room and throughout the time I've been fish keeping. So being a beginner fish, they have to meet certain criteria. One, which I think is super important, they have to be hardy. These are fish that are going to live a long, healthy, happy life in your aquarium, withstand a wide range of water parameters. Two, they have to be readily accessible and affordable. The next thing is they have to be fish that are going to fit in most beginner tanks, and so a lot of the fish that we're picking here are easily going to be able to fit in a 10-gallon, some of them a 20-gallon. And they also have to be fish that you're going to be able to find relatively easily, full of color and activity. So keeping all of that in mind, we'll take a look at 10 great beginner fish that I think you're going to do well with. All right, so with all those criteria in mind, here we go. The first one on my list of awesome beginner fish is the Harlequin Rasbora. You're seeing it in this aquarium with a lot of other fish. It's the orange fish that has the black belly. This is a great fish that doesn't get very large, and it is pretty much something that you're going to find just about everywhere. They're not super expensive, and they tend to withstand a large range of water parameters. Now, we have had this fish in our fish room, even though this isn't my aquarium. We've had these fish in our fish room for a number of years, over a number of different times, and it has always been a great fish, and always one where you put it in a tank, and it's absolutely going to show awesome color. Now, this is a fish you have to have some patience with. When you find them at the pet stores, they tend to be a little bit on the smaller side, and even though they're showing good color now, as they get older and as they get used to their surroundings, they show even better color. The other cool thing is they're super peaceful, and they're going to school around relatively tightly. And so if you're looking for all of those attributes from a fish, this can be a really great option. And by the way, if you want to learn more about this fish and the others featured in this video, check out the description below. There will be full species profiles for you there, so you can really learn how to care for each one of them. Next up on the list is the cherry barb. This is a fantastic fish, as you can see here, full of color. Now, the males are going to get a deeper, darker red color. The females will still have good color, but not quite as red as the males. There is a long fin variety, the short fin that you're seeing here. There's also an albino version of this fish. Now, this is a great fish because just like the Harlequin Rasbora and the other fish I'm going to feature here, they are relatively peaceful. These fish will stay small, so they're going to max out a little over an inch or so, and that means you can keep them in a 10-gallon aquarium or greater. And again, they're peaceful towards one another and other fish, which is really good when you're looking for a beginner fish that's not going to mess up your aquarium or chase other fish around relentlessly. So this is one that, again, we've had in our fish room for a long time. And if you're looking for that nice deep red color, especially with the males, this can be a really great addition. By the way, before I forget, this particular list is not in any order. It's not like the Harlequin Rasbora was the best and the fish that I'm going to feature later are not as good. What I am doing with this list is I am featuring the smaller fish that tend to be more community schooling type fish first. I don't think any beginner list would be complete without the white cloud mountain minnow. You're seeing them here in an 8.5-gallon aquarium. This is another fish that shows really nice color, extremely peaceful. Now, the interesting thing about the white cloud is they don't necessarily need a heater if the room temperature is usually in the upper 60s or above. This fish you can certainly get away without a heater. I wouldn't say that's the case for the other fish that we're featuring in this video. But this is once again a peaceful fish that is going to max out at around 1.25 inches or so. They get along really well with one another and seem to ignore other fish for the most part. When they're younger, they get a nice, really pretty blue stripe, and that blue stripe tends to go away as the fish age. But you can see here, what's really nice about them is they have that nice lighter fluorescent, almost fluorescent type stripe across their body. And with those red fins in a large group, they can really stand out. Very, very hardy fish, usually very inexpensive and easy to find. And just like the cherry barb, there is a long fin variety that I think looks even nicer if you can find those. The black neon is a fish I think we will always have in our fish room, and one of the reasons why is it is one of the most hardy fish out there. Every time we have black neons, they live for many, many years. This is a fish that loves to be around one another, and so far, every fish that we've talked about on this list, it's best to get them in groups of 6 or more. Obviously, the number of fish that you get depends on the tank size. Again, that's why you want to check out the species profiles. Make sure you're keeping them correctly. But this is another marvelous fish. You look at that nice fluorescent stripe across the body. The black color gets really nice, deep, dark black color all along the bottom of the body. The other thing that's cool about these fish is you start to see a little bit of iridescence in their dorsal and tail fins as they age. Again, this is something that's going to offer a lot of activity to the middle to upper parts of your aquarium. It's not a shy fish when you keep them in large enough groups. And again, because they're going to max out at around 1.5 inches or so, you can keep them in smaller tanks. Again, highly recommend at least a 10-gallon. You're seeing here a 20-gallon long, and these fish are fantastic. This next fish is the brilliant green Rasbora, and I think it is a fish that is absolutely fantastic and one that gets overlooked far too often when it's at a local fish store. This is a great fish. You can see here those nice green stripes with the red part of their tail. Absolutely a fish that is going to stand out. So far, it's the largest fish of the ones we've talked about so far, but still going to max out at around 2.5 inches or so. Of all the fish that we've discussed, I think this is the one that will school the tightest. And it's also a relatively inexpensive fish. And so if you run across these at a local fish store, definitely something I would consider. Again, keep them in groups of 6 or more. The larger the group, the better. Here we've got them in a standard 20-gallon, and I think we had around 15 of them or so in this tank. Very, very peaceful, a lot of activity. And this is a fish that's going to give you a lot of really nice subtle color, and it's going to contrast well with the other fish that we're talking about in this video. People ask sometimes if the fish that we're suggesting can be kept together, and I would say for this video, pretty much all the fish that we suggest could be kept together if you have a large enough aquarium. The only fish I would exercise some caution with is one that we're going to be talking about in a few minutes, and I will tell you when that is happening, but there's one fish on this list that might possibly pick on some of the smaller fish. So most of the fish we've talked about already like to school, like to be kept in large groups, but this is one, the Endler, where you don't necessarily have to keep them in large groups. I would highly recommend get a male for 3 to 4 females. The males are the ones that are going to show the vast majority of the color, but these are great fish, max out at around 1 inch or so, full of activity. Of all the fish we've talked about so far, these are generally going to be the most active. And when it comes to Endlers, there are so many different varieties. And yes, you can keep the different varieties together, but no matter what, I would make sure you have a ratio of about 1 male to 3 to 4 females. And if you do that, you're going to have a really active fish that's going to show amazing color, that's relatively peaceful, and they are going to be all over your aquarium. Again, I don't know how you can have a beginner fish list without at least talking about the betta. Now here, I do want to mention you should exercise some caution. From time to time, some bettas will have some genetic abnormalities, which would cause them to live a little shorter lifespan, but this is a wonderful fish, full of color, full of personality. Here we want to be a little bit careful if we're going to be keeping a betta with other types of fish, especially the ones on the list. I would strongly recommend at least a 20-gallon aquarium to do so. But these are awesome. If you've got a smaller tank, like 5 to 10 gallon, and you want to keep a betta by itself, you could certainly do that in a 5-gallon. These fish are magnificent. They have lots of different colors, fin varieties. Again, we've done species profiles on bettas as well as a lot of the other fish here. Check out the description below. This next one, this is the Crebensis. It's a cichlid. Now, it's a cichlid that stays relatively small, going to max out at around 3.5 inches or so. Both the males and the females show amazing color. In this 20-gallon long, we have the standard variety that's a little bit darker, as well as the albinos. And you can see here, we have them in with black neons. This is a fish that would go well with just about everything we've listed here, with the exception of maybe I wouldn't mix them with Endlers, because the Endlers might be a little bit too small and might wind up being fish food. And exercise a little bit of caution if you're trying to keep Crebensis with bettas. I've done it, but you have to be really careful here because that doesn't always they don't always get along. But all the other fish on the list, they will work out fine. What you're looking at here with the Crebensis is a fish that shows amazing personality and is most likely the most personable fish you're going to find on this list. If you do wind up with a pair, a male and a female, and they start to breed, they can become a little bit more aggressive, so just be aware of that. But this is a fish, if you're looking for like a centerpiece for a beginner aquarium and you maybe want to get into cichlids a little bit, but are a little bit worried about aggression, this is a good option. By the way, I've done a video on the best beginner cichlids, which I will put in the description as well, but that can be a really nice option for that beginner. All right, so what about the fish that are going to be more towards the bottom of the aquarium? I love the panda corycat. We've had many hundreds of these in our fish room in the past, and it is one of my favorite corycats. I think it is one of the hardier corycats out there, especially if you get them a little bit larger. If they're really tiny, around an inch or so, they tend to be a little bit more frail, but as you start to see them in the pet stores at 1.5 inches or 2 inches, these fish are absolutely awesome. They are relatively common, not super expensive. Now, like some of the fish we talked about earlier, it would be best to get them in a larger group of at least 4 to 6, especially if you've got a 20-gallon. But these fish are full of activity, extremely peaceful. They basically ignore other fish, and they are going to consume food that falls to the bottom of the aquarium. Now, they don't eat fish waste. That is one of the things that a lot of people mistake when it comes to your fish that are going to be towards the bottom. Oh, do they eat fish waste? No, but they will eat food, sinking pellets, and food that falls towards the bottom of the aquarium. Panda corycats, absolutely outstanding option if you're looking for a catfish for the bottom of your aquarium. This last fish is a workhorse in our fish room, and that is the bristlenose pleco. If you have at least a 20-gallon aquarium, the bristlenose pleco can be great. Just like the corycat, I would recommend the larger you can get them, certainly over 2.5 to 3 inches, the hardier they are going to be. Again, the mistake that a lot of people make is because the bristlenose is known to eat algae, they think that that's all that the fish needs. If there's not a lot of algae in your aquarium, or they eat all that algae, they do need to be fed, usually some type of a high quality, like a kelp wafer or something like that, or sinking pellets, just so that they're getting enough food. But this is a relatively peaceful fish. There are long fin varieties, short fin, many different colors. Those are the green dragon plecos. This is the super red bristlenose pleco. They come in a standard variety, albinos, so many different types, so many different fin varieties. But this can be a wonderful fish if you're looking for, again, more of a scavenger fish, an algae eating fish, as long as you're feeding them. If there isn't enough algae in the aquarium, this is a great option. So those are 10 fish that I think are awesome beginner fish, especially if you have smaller aquariums and you want something that's really peaceful, easy to find, relatively inexpensive. Once again, if you want more information on the fish, check out the videos in the upper and lower right-hand corner, as well as in the description below. You can learn a lot more about them. By the way, if you're new to fish keeping, we also have a beginner series that I will link in the description to help you along if you are a new fish keeper. Really appreciate you being here, and we'll see you in the next one.